Mic's tested. They all tested.
Yep.
Yep. Good. Tell me when I'm muted. Am I muted?
Yep.
They can hear me?
Yep. Okay.
What's up, YouTube? We're going to go live in just a sec. The broadcast will start. We're just going to let our little notifications go out into the universe and see if we can get some people on the live show. We'll be live in about 60 seconds. Six-minute stretch session. That's what we're doing today. And we're going to reveal the entire stretch session that we're launching as a whole new standalone program. We're also going to dive deep into the last two movements in this stretch session and show you how it all rolls together efficiently. We're going to discuss the biggest mistake that we've seen people making when they're trying to get started, and we're going to go deeper into what's happening in your body when we stretch. I've got two legends side by side. We've got a big discussion, big show tuned. All that and more coming up right after this. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image. Hey everyone, in case we haven't met, my name's Rad Burmeister. That's my brother Yanni Burmeister. We're the We're the co-founders of Unity Gym and It's Friday.
And the co-creators of the UMS, the Unified Movement System. And that's Phil White over there, our resident physiotherapist. And I've been at home with man flu for the last couple of days, so I'm trying to just get back in the rhythm of actually talking to a camera. So why don't you take the reins?
Before we get started, how sick do my quads look when I flex them like this in the light?
Cut. Start again.
Oh my God.
On the right, we've got Phil, Dr. Phil,
I've
joining
already
us
introduced
again.
Phil.
Yep,
Yeah.
and
I'm Rad, by the way.
And
Yeah.
that's right, and we are Unity Gym. Today it's Mufti Friday, guys. It's in the studio here. If you could see the clown outfit that Richard's wearing behind the camera, you'd all get a laugh. We just sort of let it all rip on Friday. It's a big day for us today too, because it's actually Burger Friday every day, every month. Every day is Burger Friday. Every month, the last Friday of the month, we have a little bit of a tradition here at Unity Gym where we seek out the best hamburger on the planet. And,
so Yanni and I go to this amazing cafe across the road, and Richard goes to Hungry Jack's.
That's right.
I'd like to draw attention that I am still wearing my fancy uniform. So
Yeah.
I'm keeping this ship on sale.
Yeah, that's right. That's
You
right.
guys are-
We've got Phil back. Phil was off graduating from yet another university degree
Yeah.
this week.
There we go.
When he's not in the clinic, he's off just
Wearing
making
robes.
Graduating
gains,
from
wearing
random-
robes. You know, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
You
But
actually
that's
got
it.
to keep the trend to the hat. They,
Oh, really?
I think they've got the shits with people who, throw it up in the air and then it like gets the dented corners when you give it back. So they're just like, forget it,
Yeah.
keep it. So if ever you guys want to feel like you just that little bit,
Oh, sick.
I can
Yeah.
bring in the
it's
trench.
gold.
You can.
Yeah. Oh, you so should. So is that it for studying now? Is that
Yeah,
it?
that's
You're
a
done.
wrap. But
Yeah.
with physio, you have to continue education constantly, like tick it off every year to keep credited. So
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've not stopped studying since we finished
Yeah.
uni. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's sick.
Always
That's
learning.
good. It's awesome. We've also got a whole bunch of questions to answer and a little bit of funny stuff to respond to here from you guys. And if we're all ready, let's dive straight out onto the gym floor to get stuck into this.
Ready to go, yeah.
These movements. Is Richie ready to go? Yeah, cool. I'm on the mic today, guys, so I'm going to be the one talking because Rad's a little bit man flued out. So I'll bring my notes as well. Phil's going to come out and just throw coffee at Rad whilst he's going. Oh, it's a good day today. It's a good day today. I have the trifecta today. I had a mad training session this morning. I have Burger Friday and I have Phil's Massage Friday too, so it's going to be a big day. And I'm going to double down on 2 massive hamburgers, get that carb loading in, and then just crash out on the massage table straight after. We got Josh, one of our tribe members, in the background over here, just looking buff and making us all look smaller than we really are, because he's wearing a lighter t-shirt. Yeah, all right, let's get into it. So Rad's just warming up his spine. So what we want to do today, the first 2 things we want to talk about are the last 2 movements, and they are the hip lizard stretch and the squat mobilisation. And the 2 key points that we're talking about today are joint mobilisation and body positioning. Yesterday we spoke about the other 3 key elements of a warm-up, and this is a warm-up routine. It's both a warm-up routine and it's also a stretching and mobility routine. So you're going to get gains from it if you're new to flexibility training. And if you are very, very advanced at flexibility training, this is going to become an epic daily mobility routine for you to lock in your flexibility gains, warm yourself up before any sort of athletic performance, squatting or sport, and also solidify and maintain your flexibility training on your non-flexibility training days. So what Rad's demonstrating here right now is the hip stretch. This is the second last routine. Make sure you notice the emphasis of what we call PPT, posterior pelvic tilt. That's really, really key in these hip flexor movements, because what we want to do, the system of muscles really comes from the lower back, runs through the hips, right down into the front of the thigh. We like to talk about the whole system of muscles in that flexor chain that he's opening up and stretching here. So he's doing a combination of really pulling forward and leaning forward into that stretch. The rotation that he's doing is helping get that sort of 360-degree hip flexibility. It's really only 180 degrees, but you get my point. And now he's really going into the advanced variation of this movement, which is what we call the lizard stretch. Don't ask me why. And that brings the quadriceps right into it as well. So now he's getting that whole sort of flexor chain stretching, except for the abdominals. The abdominals aren't really getting too much of a stretch there. Have you got anything you want to add to that?
No.
No? Okay. So let's move into...
Well, yeah, we demonstrated it, beginner, intermediate, advanced versions.
Right there, yeah. And look, I'm going to talk about this more once we go back into the room, but the main reason why we want to open up the hip flexors for the squat is because if you're squatting real heavy, so let's say hypothetically we're doing a barbell back squat. If your hip flexor or the flexor chain complex here is very tight, there's a whole heap of things that can happen. One is that as you go down into the squat, when the quadriceps are really tight, they put a lot of pressure on the knee and the kneecap, which can cause problems and knee pain and all sorts of stuff like that. If the hip flexors are really tight, they will pull your body forward as you go into the squat. So there's a whole heap of things that you cancel out or you fix when we open up that hip flexor complex. All right, let's go into the squat routine now. This is the final part of the routine, and this is taken straight from our UMS mobility warm-up that we do for the lower body. So Rad's doing what we call a knee wiggle here, and he's just literally wiggling. Then he transitions to what we call a knee press, where he's pressing the knee out and he's trying to get his arm straight, so the elbow locked out here with the other side stationary. You may not have that sort of flexibility, so you may not get the arm straight just yet. That's totally fine. So knee wiggles first. We like to do 10 to 20 of these, and then he does the knee push. And he really tries to push that out, and we finish always with a hold. So he holds it there for about 5 to 10 seconds. Then he's going to go into both hands at the same time, and we call these squat prayers because it kind of looks like he's praying there, and he's in the squat position. So he's just anchoring his elbows on the inner part of his quads, and he's pushing the knees out to get a deep groin and adductor stretch there. It's a really nice way to open up the hips a little bit. He's progressed to a harder variation there by putting the knuckles together and pushing out rather than the palms of the hands. It just increases the stretch a little bit. And now he's going to go to the, what are these called? The squat bows. Squat bow, and he's using his hands and thumbs there as a guide to try and get the head down as low as he can. Remember, progressive overload is key to everything you're doing, so you may start off with the thumb going down, and then you start to go to the fist, and then you can eventually get right down deep in there. People often ask us with this one, see you brother, whether you're allowed to lift your bum up. Now, yeah, you can initially as you're building up your flexibility, but it's definitely the goal to keep the bum down as you're going through these drills. Okay, the final stage of this is that we're going to start doing some rotations. So first of all, he starts off rotating through his rib cage and his lumbar and his lower back. This becomes a really awesome stretch for the lower back. He wants to anchor this knee on this side of his body so that he doesn't rotate around in the feet, and he's really reaching forward. Now he extends and does a harder variation by reaching to the ceiling. Do the other side just so you balance out. And this is a beautiful way to warm up the stretch. It's very important, as we spoke about yesterday with Phil, that you keep moving through this whole routine, especially if you're about to do some sort of sporting activity that requires dynamic strength, plyometrics, things like that, where you're going to express explosive strength or speed strength. So you want to make sure that you're not sitting there holding stretches, static stretches for a long period of time. That's a really big mistake that we see people making. Okay, so now I'm going to get Rad to go through and show you how this whole thing comes together and flows. We're not going to demonstrate as a follow along, so he's not going to do the time. We're just going to show you how the sequence of movements comes together, because remember, the key to this whole routine is efficiency. As Phil said yesterday and the day before, and we're going to keep repeating, the best stretch session or routine for you is the one that you do every day. So Rad's doing the cardio component. Remember, that has a big crossover to squatting because his knees are going into that squatting position. Now he's gone straight over into the calf stretching, and he's doing the gastroc stretch here. Now, I want you to bring one foot up and just do some bent knee stretching as well in the front foot, because we talked about that yesterday. That's really important, and really pushing that knee forward. Very nice. Now he's going to go straight into the next phase, which is ostrich walk, and then test the water. So now we're doing a dynamic hamstring stretch. You can see that it's just flowed on. There's no pausing. He wants to keep his heart rate elevated. He wants to keep the blood flow through to the extremities increased. All of that stuff is really important. Now he's going to get the benefits of the test the water, the Cossack squat, the vasoconstriction. He's really switching on all of the muscles, and it's important to keep that movement going. Remember, we don't want to sit holding static stretches because that can compromise strength and it can increase injury vulnerability. Now he's going to go back. Normally we would repeat the ostrich walk and all of that for time. The next one is his quad hip flexor and lizard stretch. Going straight into that. And again, just flowing into these movements. It's all about efficiency. We want to get the whole thing done nice and quickly. And then we can use progressive overload. So in the program that we're releasing with this, we show regressions for all of these movements to make it much, much easier for an absolute beginner to do. And in some of the shows this week, we've shown you some of those regressions because we want this to be easy for everybody. Now he's going to go into the final, which we've just demonstrated, the squat routine. So you can see here, all of these movements flow really nicely on from one another. There's no sort of stop-start. There's no, how am I going to, where do I go? Do I need equipment? Do I need to reposition my body? It's just nice and easy. You don't need anything to get through this routine, and it's going to deliver amazing results for you. He's going into his squat bows, his squat rotations, and he's done. That's it. That's the squat routine. And then a nice little press handstand at the end. He's got a shoulder injury, so I'm surprised he just did that. Yeah, he must be feeling confident. All right, let's bring it back in and we'll bring this sucker in for a landing. We're going to talk about our key discussion points, our key insight for today, and the biggest mistake that people are making that we've noticed as an observation. We've got a little bit of interaction here. Richard Lillies, I personally thought my uniform looked good, but okay. Kai, Tim, how are you, brother? So good to get to meet you the other day in the gym. And hey, Kai, I assume you're on our mailing list because the daily blog that's going out today, you'll like it. I give you a bit of a shout out. Anyway, hi guys, back in Noosa. Awesome to chat to Yanni. We'll keep in touch about kiting and young athletes. Also need to get to the short strength program for them to make time commitment workable. Thanks for the great class to Richard, by the way. Awesome, brother. Thank you very much for the feedback. And the discussion, I found it really interesting. And off the back of that discussion, we're creating these 6-minute stretch sessions. And we're going to create 6-minute strength sessions as well. So thank you very much, brother. Okay, so the final 2 key components of the performance boosting, injury reducing warm-up are joint mobilisation and body positioning. And yesterday, Phil asked, what was body positioning? So let's elaborate on joint mobilisation and body positioning here. What is it and why is it important?
Oh wow, you've thrown me.
Do you want me to answer?
Well, I wasn't ready for this at all. I didn't. So
joint mobilisation and body positioning.
So what's joint mobilisation?
Why are they important in a warm-up?
So, well, joint mobilisation is very important because it's basically taking your joints through full range of motion before you work out, and one of the main reasons why people get injured during a workout is because they don't warm their body up. They don't take their joints through full range of motion in a safe, controlled way, and then they do their activity that they're getting ready for, which is usually done at a very high intensity. So, sporting activities or weightlifting or training in the gym is done at a high intensity. So if you don't mobilize your joints first at a low intensity, you run the risk of injury. I can personally say that almost every time I've injured myself, it's been from a lack of a good warm-up. So that'll be the first thing. And body positioning when you're doing this stuff is critical. I wasted so many years stretching and doing routines like this, where you do the routine, like you're doing the routine that somebody else is doing, but you don't understand the body positioning, and you just don't get the right muscles. You don't hit the muscles in the right way. Like the tiniest things, like creating a posterior pelvic tilt when you're doing that hip flexor stretch, and like there's so many little nuances that you just don't get from just watching somebody do it unless you hear a tutorial explained really well, and they make critical differences to success. I mean, like whilst I'm sitting down in a seat now, I could say if I want to do a bicep stretch, if I had a door frame here or a wall and I put my arm up on the wall and turn my hand inward and then stretch against like this to get a bicep stretch, if my arm goes from here to here, I won't get a stretch in the bicep. Or if my arm is here versus here, I won't get a stretch in the bicep. It's a really amazing difference that the correct body positioning can do.
Yeah.
And you can feel it when you know how to stretch like I can. Like I'll go into a position and there's zero stretch in the bicep, and then I'll move my body the tiniest little bit, like you barely even notice it if you were watching me, and bang, straight away I can feel the stretch in my bicep.
So just quickly for the people who didn't quite understand what Rad was just talking about there, because it was a little bit high level. Body positioning is all about switching on the right muscles, activating and driving up the central nervous system in positions that are going to be required for your workout. So unlike people who run on a treadmill, and I used this description yesterday, and then go and squat, there's no crossover between those two activities. So yes, the treadmill will get you elevate your blood pressure up a little bit, like your blood flow up a bit, it'll get your heart rate up a bit, it'll lubricate the joints a bit and all that sort of thing, but there's no real crossover. So you couldn't just walk straight into a heavy squat safely, and then you've got to repeat body positioning warm-ups and mobility drills, which are usually much lighter progressions right through to get your squat warmed up anyway. So you may as well choose activities that have a better crossover, because it increases the efficiency of your workout. And everyone knows you don't want to spend the majority of the time of your workout warming up. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think just the point yesterday of like with all these exercises, especially when you're down that squat position or in that going into the Cossacks, that like keeping your knees out over your little toe is a really nice way of kind of keying into that movement early in your warm-up and getting that body positioning right, so then when you do transfer to your squat, you're loading your knee in the best possible way. So that's just
absolutely.
I think a nice example of the body position.
Absolutely. There. Okay, how to improve your warm-up efficiency by choosing complementary movements. We've discussed that at length. That's such an important conversation point. And, Phil tipped on this yesterday. If you're not warming up to train in a gym, because in a gym, in most gym environments, the movement planes that you're exercising in are quite simple in comparison to athletics or sports specific warm-ups, you know, where it needs to be a little bit more dynamic, it needs to be a little bit more multi-plane, and therefore the warm-ups would be a little bit more specific to that sport, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing, like understand your sport and the demands of your sport, and then warm up to mimic that sport, you know. The worst thing you can do, and this is what I sort of rescued my football team, they were all doing like static stretching before a football game when I first started with them. They had no clue, and that was a fairly high level, you know, team. So yeah, it's really important that you understand how the body functions and then move dynamically to suit your sport, you know. How these drills, so let's just finish on how the drills that we just demonstrated out there complement the squat. Who wants to dive into that?
Yeah, I think starting off, just the points that I touched there on body positioning. All of those movements are really just warming you up to be in that really nice knee tracking position, which is just so important for a squat. When you see people going into a gym and squatting like knock knee down, it makes me shudder. It's like you can just
horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just one of the worst things you could be doing long term for your body. So but the squat is an amazing exercise if you execute it well. So when you're in that warm up and you're really keying in that great knee tracking in conjunction with that good sort of rigidity, I guess, like keeping that nice neutral spine as well, then that's just a perfect thing to be doing in your warm up. So when you start to work up into those higher weights in your set, that movement is just so well practiced that you don't have to think about it, because you want to make these things automatic. So the more time you can spend your time doing it, the better. And if you can do a really good efficient warm up where you're practicing those movements, and
there's one thing that we haven't said that I feel very strongly about, which is that these style of routines that we've just demonstrated out there allow you to explore your optimal squat position and squat stance and knee tracking position and all of that without heavy loads on your body. So, you know, if you're going into a squat, and here's the thing, there are a bunch of sort of variables that will alter your optimal foot position, knee position, squat depth, you know, and how your body actually sort of interprets the squat. Things like the length of the bone structure, the femur, the upper bone in relation to the tibia and fibula,
the shape of your pelvis,
the shape of your pelvis, the pitch of the acetabulum which is the sort of hip pelvis sockets there. Sometimes they're pitched forward, sometimes they're pitched out more, which means that you'd have to have a wider knee stance.
Yeah,
you know,
so there's one thing I wanted to key on when watching Rad doing the warm-up. Like, I'm sure if we filmed me doing it, it wouldn't look quite the same as Rad, because he's, you know, really drilled that mobility and range over time, whereas
he's also got the like perfect bone structure for squat. Like he can like squat ass to grass with his feet and knees together, you know.
So I just want to like really reinforce it for people watching at home. If you you know, follow along the program, you give this a go. If it's not looking exactly like Rad, that's totally fine. Like that's, you know, he's just exceptional at doing this sort of stuff. So when you're starting out with these exercises, like, you just go to the depth that you can do. Try and think about those key like body positioning aspects of the lift of the warm up. But if it doesn't look exactly like Rad, that's totally fine. And, you know, the more you do it, the more you'll get towards looking a bit more like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So these sort of drills are just so good. One of the ways that they complement, and I think the most powerful way they complement your squat, is they help you explore your squat and your optimal ideal stance, so that when you get into the actual workout, you really know and you've reinforced that.
I think one of the key movements in there that I think was, like, you know, fairly quickly skimmed over was the thoracic rotation and extension there. Just so key for the squat as well, because you really see when people don't have that like ability to keep their chest up while you're going to the squat, that's the first part of the chain that just suddenly, like, collapses. As soon as you like lose like the ability to hold that position, then it's just sort of game over for your squat. So really, like, that rotation and extension, just such a good warm up.
Yep. So the key insight that I want you guys to take home today, which we've beat this drum a lot this week, including mobility and body positioning drills that have a strong crossover to the types of exercise you're about to participate in, is key to increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of your warm-up. Doesn't matter what you do, whether you're participating in sport or working out in the gym, it has to be specific. And so you got to start thinking a little bit and get creative about how you're going to warm up. If you've got questions, shoot them through in our comments and we'll definitely chime in and help you out. The biggest mistake that we see people make is that they're still warming up and performing movements that fail to complement their workout, which really, as Phil said yesterday, at best will just leave you more fatigued, so you've got less juice in the tank for your workout. At worst, can compromise your body and expose you to injury. You know, so it's super important, and it's about time that people start to understand how.
Yeah,
to
I think
do
people
this
really
properly.
underestimate the cognitive load of actually training well in a gym. Like, it just takes so much effort to be thinking about all the different cues that you need to be doing,
Yeah,
and to
definitely.
execute that while you're you're getting through your workout. Like, I find that if you do like a hard cardio session to start out, you get halfway through the session, it's just like that. It really becomes quite just exhausting to keep that really good form throughout. So. Yeah, you want to be making this warm up nice and efficient, but it's keeping you primed, not exhausted for your workout.
Yeah, absolutely. And like if you're still doing static stretching before your workout, or you're still just trying to smash up and get your heart rate up or burn some calories on the cardio equipment, we are talking to you guys. This is really important. Go back, watch this series, get what you can out of it. If you've still got questions, ask us. Otherwise, get our flash sale today, which is going to be the launch of this new program, and it's going to be half price, and it's a cracker of a little program. It's really nice, easy for everyone to do. We take you through regressions, progressions, everything, and it's super easy. The idea is to make it as efficient as possible and to remove the barrier of entry for people who don't really know what they're doing. Got anything to add?
No?
No?
My last thing is just, I think I said it yesterday as well, but it's such a, like, if you're traveling and you're away from the gym for a little while, like, it's amazing how quickly, when you take a step back, how hard it is to, if you go and travel for a month or, even a couple of weeks, coming back, trying to get into those squat positions is really tough. So, there's all these amazing studies about how little, like, you can just do a little bit, to try and maintain what you've got. So if you're traveling and you just got 6 minutes to spare, you can do this in if you have a couple of meters spare,
Absolutely.
like, chuck this out while you're traveling, and it will do wonders for you getting back into your training, because that's often the hardest thing.
It takes a lot of work to achieve something that you've never had before. So to get more flexible or to get stronger than you've ever been before, it takes a lot of work. But to maintain what you've already got takes very little work, but it does take some work. You have to do something to do it, but not a lot. And so little routines like this are just golden. It's they're so good. They're worth their weight in gold, and it's what we do all the time. I can't go more than a day or two without moving like this, otherwise my body just stiffens up.
The videos of you in the grass up at your family.
That's right.
Place, and just whipping these out. So don't need equipment. Just get moving.
Anyway,
that's exactly right. And mobility training is the best for that, like, because you literally can do it in a few minutes and get a really good result from that. It's huge. Okay, let's rip through a few of these questions. No one's got any questions live. Before we do, guys, we've got a few people watching live. Other than Kai, let us know who you are, where you're watching from, and smash up that like button if you do like what you're seeing. It does really help us. It helps with the algorithm. We're trying to hack Google here. Robert Burwell. Hi, Yanni and Phil. Robert Burwell from the USA. Great routine. Enjoy Phil as an addition to the show. Good demonstrations, Yanni. Thanks.
Cheers.
We like him too. He's all right, this Phil guy. That was in relation to yesterday's routine and yesterday's show. Flippo, my very own. This is I think Flippo2FM. I think you're trying to spam us, so I'm not even going to read this out because it's you keep chiming in on our shows, trying to sell some sort of program or product, which pisses me off to no degree.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he does it all the time.
Moving
on. Okay, Jim is a regular watching the show. Thank you very much for your support, brother. Jim Poindexter. Several years ago, I was diagnosed with a bone spur. This is in relation to the discussion we had yesterday. I was having chronic pain with it. The surgeon had me try several stepping stone treatments to address the issue. After an MRI, the surgeon told me I had a huge bone spur. As a result, I tore my bicep. This was a situation where surgery performed early on would have prevented the torn bicep, but I wholly support doing treatment before contemplating surgery. I've cut off the bottom of that. I completely agree, mate. We spoke about this yesterday. Surgery should absolutely be a last resort. As Phil said yesterday, and I really think this is key to anyone listening who's been diagnosed with like bone spurs and things like that, which is quite common. It comes from a dysfunction. You don't get bone spurs from a functional shoulder or a functional joint.
Yeah, it's the body trying to be helpful. It's laying down more substance there to try and protect that area. So, like, definitely if you get to that point where you do need surgery, I do recommend getting a second opinion for sure.
Yeah.
But, like, think about why it's happening and really try and address that underlying cause, because it's coming there because you've got some dysfunction.
You've got something
there.
going on.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so, running off and getting surgery, it A, won't always fix the problem, and it can create new problems. And two, there is a very long period of time after the surgery or the surgical intervention that you can't do things, which has a huge effect on motivation, momentum, habits, routines, all these things. And a lot of people find that even though their rehab period is only 4 months after surgery or something like that, it takes them like a year to get back to where they wanted to be because of that loss of flow, that loss of momentum. I've certainly experienced it. I've been under the knife quite a few times, all from accidents and trauma. So, thanks for chiming in on that one, mate. Edvardus. This is the pec guy. Mate, if you're going to have a go at Rad about his pecs, come up with something a little bit more creative than that. We all know that he's got small pecs, but you could have been a lot more creative. I'm very disappointed in the tone of your comment there, the language that you've used.
In my defence, I haven't done any pushing exercises for 6 months.
Yeah, Rad's also
We've
got
got
a shoulder injury. So
if I got a rig like that when I'm 40, it'll be happy days. So.
Yeah, that's right. It's still funny though. Would you say these exercises are sufficient to achieve the side splits? This is Joe Chi in relation to the flexibility training for adductors. And you've already answered this. Depends on the individual. Some people make flexibility gains very easily. This is Rad saying this. In which case it would be sufficient. Others have to work very hard to see real gains, in which case you need a lot more than just this. That's where progressive overload periodization and smart program come into play. This is a really important point. And for anyone out there who watches one of our videos and hopes that that's going to be the solution to what they're trying to achieve, the answer is 9 times out of 10, it will only get you to the next stage. Any new stimulus, any new program will help. It'll move you forward, hopefully, if it's a good program or a good routine. But progressive overload is key, guys. So you can't just keep doing the same thing and expect the same result over time. The body doesn't work like that. The body adapts to its environment. We talk about this a lot. And it adapts to what you're doing all the time. And so your current routine right now is not your best routine. It was the best routine when you hadn't done it much. The next routine that you come up with is going to be the best routine. So you've got to continually.
I'd just say that that's a really important point. Like that's key to sort of long-term success. But do think about your goals and think about like what's really important to you. If you want to achieve side splits, by all means go for it. But like it's something that you'll get a better result and less likely to injure yourself if you just take it slow. It's just your body does need time to adapt to it. It needs time to adapt to like your muscles, your connective tissue, like all of it takes a bit of time. And if you just rush into it and push it, then it's quite likely to hurt yourself. The other thing about the side splits is like getting that active stability component is so important, because if you just jam that end range of the joint, then it's going to be pretty sore. So you really want to start building up the dynamic sort of stability, which these sort of active programs are pretty good at doing. So
yeah, awesome. Quack, thanks for chiming in, mate. Love the Active Hero exercise that Rad taught. It is a really, really good one for the quads and hip flexors. And Michael P, hi guys, this is an awesome show. We love you, mate. That's fantastic. And we like to get a bit of feedback because it makes us feel like we're not wasting our time.
Nice to just hang out and
it's
chat.
Nice to just hang out and chat. We do it anyway. Like we just sit here and talk shit. But when you guys tune in, we actually think, okay, we'll put a proper show together. So it's good.
Well,
anyway,
it's different having people actually watching, because when we started, we were just doing this.
We were just talking to no one. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it does mean a lot to us that you guys jump on live and tell us who you are, where you're tuning in from, because it means that we're talking to people, not just a camera. Okay, that's it for this week for us. It's Friday in Sydney, so we are wrapping up, bringing this in for a landing. We have a massive flash sale this weekend, which we're really excited about, which is this new 6-minute stretch session for the squat. And we're really excited to roll out this whole series of micro programs because we've had a lot of feedback from people around the world, professional bodybuilders, Kai, who trains professional kite surfing athletes up in Noosa. The request has been for a long time coming to produce some entry-level programs for people who just want to get started, break down that barrier of entry, which is time restriction and time commitment. So here it is, guys.
And even financial restrictions.
And even
as well,
financial, yeah, absolutely.
These are going to be so cheap that you'd be a numpty to not grab it if you're looking at really making some improvements and getting started with us.
And bang for your buck. People often ask us, what should I do when I'm on vacation? We just answered it. Phil answered it perfectly. These programs are perfect. What should I do if I'm new and I just want to, learn a little bit? This is perfect. What should I do if I'm really advanced but I want to improve my performance when I'm squatting? This program is perfect. Like it is a cracker of a little routine. And we're going to go all in on this topic. We're going to do shoulders next, and then we're going to do a couple of other stretch routines. We're going to do self-massage, 6-minute self-massage. We'll have Phil help us out with that one.
And send a message. Tell us what you want.
Yeah,
we'll do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we're going to do strength. We're going to do strength stuff for bulletproof shoulders, bulletproof knees, things like that. So we're really excited to start doing this. Anyway, guys, we will see you on the flip side Monday. We're going to come in with another big series next week for the shoulders. Hit us up with what you'd like to see as well. Until then, remember, if you want to dip your toe into the Unity and UMS tribe, then download our free flexibility blueprint. If you want to go all in and really dive into our inner circle, get that free 30-day trial of the UMS program. That's it.
See you later, bro.
Have a good weekend. Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.